May I shake your hand, please? Please, come on. You can do it. Be the change. Show the love. No, sir. Okay. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Sir, may I shake your hand, please? Boss? Sir? I know you're looking away because you can't handle it. It hurts in the heart, eh? It hurts.
Anybody who can't look
Standing and dividing the people. Does it hurt? For money? You know, we're here because people are starving. They're losing their lives. I get it. Your family will be okay. That's fine. What about everybody else's family? Okay, sir. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Okay?
This video is brought to you by people who like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can also support my work by buying me a coffee. The Fellowship of Guapasaga continues, with more Axe the Tax protests and the mayor's Christmas complaints. Across the nation, the committed Canadians were still standing strong against the Lord of the Liberals' carbon tax. They wanted to tax to get axed, just like the mayor planned to do with next year's residential tax increase. But both the mayor and the Axe the Tax protesters faced pushback from those who wanted more taxes. Can Carly of Klassen and the Elder Elves do anything about the housing cost crisis? And will both taxes get axed? In the flatlands of Alberta, the early rising prairie protesters stood off against the line of federal thugs. Like the convoy standoff in Ottawa, the peaceful protesters attempted to talk to the hired goons. They tried to shake their hands and asked them to think about other people's families instead of their own personal pocketbooks. The federal thugs ignored their request and stood there watching the clock earn them more overtime hours. Eventually, the standoff ended when the goons' shift was complete and they had earned enough for their full overtime pay. Later that day, in the lands of Ontario, a similar situation was brewing on the Quebec border. The Axe the Tax protesters had set up camp on the side of the border crossing highway to bring attention to their cause. Just like the Albertans, they wanted the carbon tax to get axed, since it was all economic pain with no environmental gain. They had yet to see any gain from the tax, which was obvious to them, and was further reinforced by the Liberal Environment Committee Chair's comments. There is no data specifically stating that a price on carbon resulted in a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. I don't think that's possible, quite frankly. Armed with protest signs and information, the Axe the Tax protesters on the Ontario-Quebec border caught the attention of more political police. Representatives of the Ministre des Transports du Québec gave out handwritten notes demanding that the carbon tax protesters vacate the area. They pressured them to leave within half an hour under threat of arrest. The Axe the Tax protesters stood there in shock as they wondered if this would be a repeat of what they saw in Ottawa. Back in the Shire, the Axe the Tax protesters were also happening at the local levels. At the Westwood Bridge over the Hanlon, the local carbon tax protesters were waving their Canadian flags and signs at passing traffic. Unlike the protests with the non-Canadian flags, they remained peaceful and didn't smash any bus shelters or utter death threats at people filming them. All the honking and support for the Shire's Axe the Tax protest eventually got the attention of local Karens and Lloyd of the Longfields. As a member of the federal Liberal Party, Lloyd of the Longfields was known for his man crush on the Lord of the Liberals. Like anyone with a man crush, he got butthurt about people protesting against his precious carbon tax. He wrote an open letter in support of the Lord of the Liberals and fighting climate change. Falling in lockstep, he blamed last year's record-breaking forest fires on climate change and said the tax was needed to reduce them. He also parroted the line about the carbon tax's income redistribution qualities instead of its lack of environmental gain. Meanwhile, in the mayor's office downtown, he played his game of European-inspired SimCity to the faint sound of honking in the background. He basked in the slightly cleaner view from his office window from the fewer tents encamped downtown. Thanks to the thousands of dollars spent on the homeless hotels, a few dozen minimum wage earners kept warm inside over the winter. Unfortunately, that funding will run out in 3 weeks at the end of the month, and they might end up back in the streets again. The mayor tried to flex his strong powers against the tent encampment downtown with his proposed safe space bylaw. But after further review in a Kingston court case, the council determined that a safe space bylaw would likely be struck down by the Superior Court of Justice. So the homeless people at the homeless hotels can freely return to their tents downtown in 3 weeks' time. The mayor had to give up on his safe space bylaw, so he instead focused on flexing his strong mayor powers on the books. He was trying to make things a little less worse by cutting next year's residential tax increase down to 4% instead of the planned 10%. Using his strong mayor powers to get it done, he took a red pen to the corporation of the Shire's books to make the cuts. He axed $15 million from the books, with transit improvements and new paramedic shifts being put on hold. The Shire's social services took a hit of $2 million as they dealt with more than 3,000 applicants on their growing waitlist for housing. They continued to wait in the tent encampment downtown while more people joined them from the homeless hotels. However, the mayor got pushback from flexing his strong mayor powers all over the Shire. Going all the way back to last Christmas, he received 3 official complaints for his online behavior. The complaints were about his Christmas post on Twitter with him and his wife singing Christmas carols to maskless seniors. The mayor was accused of breaking several codes of conduct for replying to the criticisms of him singing maskless to vulnerable seniors at a time of heightened levels of COVID-19 and despite public health warnings. The 3 complainers stated that the mayor and his wife were only causing harm by being in a long-term care home with high-risk people. Luckily, the Shire's Integrity Commissioner was a reasonable person and said that while online criticism is a fact of life for those in public office, the mayor didn't do anything against the council's code of conduct. He will not face any penalties from the 3 complaints and can return to cutting residential taxes to make things a little less worse. The mayor can continue to reply to comments, block people, and ignore emails, just like he always does as he plays his game of European-inspired SimCity on a Game Boy he bought at a garage sale. Can Carly of Klassen and the Elder Elves do anything about the housing cost crisis? And will both taxes get axed? Stay tuned here to see. This video is brought to you by brighttutoring.ca. Don't let school get in the way of your education. Book a tutoring session today at brighttutoring.ca.